Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Born to Read. We're excited to have you with us. Today we've got another fantastic book that we both very, very much enjoyed. Another very practical one, hard-hitting one, conveniently another Canon Press book. Book is Future Men, Raising Boys to Fight Giants by Douglas Wilson.
E.
Why do you say E?
I don't know, just cringe. Don't you not like that guy?
You don't like him?
No, you don't like him.
Why wouldn't I like him?
Why wouldn't I like him?
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Glad we settled that. So, basic overview of the book. The subtitle is convenient enough. Raising Boys to Fight Giants. We want our boys to grow up to be men, not boys who shave, right? Or sometimes don't shave. Sometimes they grow beards. But we want our boys to grow up. And I think maybe the most important line of the book, he says, the boy is the father to the man, which sounds a little bit backwards. Like, wait, what are you talking about? As if to imply, though, the type of boy that you raise, or the type of boy that you are, if you're a boy or a young man reading the book, if you're that type of boy, whatever type of boy you are, is going to be the type of man that you become.
Right.
And so we want to make sure that the boy is being raised in a good, godly, self-controlled, manly manner, right?
Right. Yeah. I don't know. This book was challenging to read as a man because, I mean, it pretty much presents like the perfect form of masculinity, and nobody is going to be the perfect form of masculinity. So reading it kicked my butt. And, but for me personally, I picked it up because I'm having a future men of myself here in December. And so I really needed to, like, I want to read as much as I can. So I've William Gouge's family series. I picked this one up. I have Richard Baxter's The Godly Home. I'm doing tons of reading on the family. Then I'm going to read Bavinck. But this one is specifically towards raising men. It's one of the only ones I could find, and it's really good. The first thing that really struck me was the discipline. The call of a father is to discipline. As I've gotten older, I've kind of noticed like a pattern where fathers don't discipline their sons. And I think it's because they get like this, I don't know, this like love towards their son, and they're afraid to discipline him, or they don't want to because they love him, or at least they think they love him, when in reality, the Bible says you discipline because you love, and if you don't discipline, you're despising. And you can see that most clearly with King David, who, when his son acted out and just did horrible things, he said he didn't confront him because he loved him, like quotations. And it almost sounds sarcastic. Like, David obviously didn't love his son, or else he would have disciplined him.
And it led to huge, huge problems because as Amnon does what he did with his sister, Absalom sees that and goes, "Hey, Dad, why don't you do something about this?" And he doesn't do something. Absalom not only takes into his own hands to avenge his own sister, but then ends up turning around and turning the kingdom on its head, saying,
Right.
My father has abdicated his responsibility, and so now he's no longer even fit to be king."
Right.
And because I was willing to take responsibility, I'm more fit to be king than my dad is, which is a lot of what the book talks about, is what happens when you've got a man who wimps out. And there's a false type of masculinity that revolves around being the tough guy, right? Like, sometimes people say, oh, you need to man up when somebody's being sensitive or tender as a man. And there's a time and a place to be sensitive, and there's a time and a place to be strong and manly. But you have some people who aren't actually manly. They're just being the tough guy for the sake of being the tough guy to make people think that they're masculine. And it's just he calls it another form of wimping out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that also, King David's story speaks to when you don't discipline one of your sons, your other son is going to notice.
Right.
And uh, it's like, I think it's firstborn son syndrome, because I think it says in the Kings, for Amnon was his firstborn son. I think it says that.
Yeah.
And that's just something I see pretty prevalent today. I do not want to fall for that. And I think he could have written a whole book just on that. And I forgot what you said. Oh, the macho-ness, like the fake masculinity.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's like two ditches in the road. The macho-ness is like, to me, it's almost more effeminate than like the skinny jean wearing, lisp talking, like, because you're more volatile emotionally.
Right.
Like you're just like what are you looking at? Like, like it's like, I don't know. It's unsafe. It's inconsistent, and therefore it's like more chaotic, which is the opposite of what
Right.
manhood is
Well,
supposed to be.
yeah. I mean, side note, I just saw a video the other day of a guy who was trying to be Mr. Tough Guy, right? This guy, he's standing outside of a convenience store, and this guy with cerebral palsy pulls up and goes walking into the convenience store, and he's got a disability, and he's kind of walking with a limp a little bit. And the guy standing outside the convenience store starts mocking the guy. The guy goes in and buys his stuff and comes back out to his car. And the tough guy, is out there mocking him to his face again, and just walks up and just sucker punches the guy with cerebral palsy, just pops him right on the face. And the guy with cerebral palsy he hits and then turns back and just looks at the guy and go, like, just confused, like, why'd you do that? Like, what's the deal? And the guy, like, then runs off, because he tried to act the tough guy. Obviously, beating up on somebody who's disabled is just like, do you feel good about yourself now? Like, that's not masculine. The actual manly man there was the guy who took the punch to the jaw and then stared the guy down, like, what'd you do that for? And everybody in the comment section of the video is like, yeah, what a coward. What a wimp. That he feels like he's more of a man to punch somebody who can't defend themselves, who has a disability. And it's just that type of thing. Like, what goes into raising a boy who thinks that he's a man because he's tough and can punch innocent victims. Like, that's the exact type of thing that you're dealing with when you say, okay, this guy he's not a man. He's a boy. That's a playground fight, right? That's what you do in kindergarten. You're not being a man. You're being a boy. And just because you just came out of a convenience store buying cigarettes doesn't make you a man. Just because you turned 18 doesn't make you a man. Doesn't mean you're fighting giants. And so there is a natural aggression to boys, and even in the book here, he talks about there are times when boys will fight, and we don't necessarily need to call the boys in. They're wrestling in the mud outside. We don't need to call them in and chastise them for, why were you fighting? Or don't fight. We don't need to tell them don't fight. It's a come in and say, why were you fighting? Okay, that's probably not a reason to fight, but I'm glad that you were defending the honor of your sister, or whatever. When it comes necessary, we want to say you need to be ready to fight. So we don't want to discourage fighting all the time, but you want to encourage the right type of fighting.
Yeah, you don't want somebody who's harmless, because a harmless man can't be a good man. In order to be a good man, you have to be power under control.
Right.
So you can't be like the pacifistic type of, I guess, in quotations, masculine. And I don't know. I think the culture could benefit, to what you were saying, from like a culturally relevant manhood, like kind of ceremony, like initiation. Like, hey, you're 13 now. Kind of like what do the Jewish people do? What's it called?
Bar mitzvah?
Yeah, like hey, you're a man now, so get after it. Like, start waking up at 4:30. Get after it. Like, I don't know, just like make people realize, like, I'm a man, because boys are prone to laziness. That's another chapter in this book, and they're gonna make excuses.
Yep.
Another one topic real quick that I want to talk about was the covenant home. Mainly what stood out to me in that was, you need to teach your sons that they're not just naked individuals. Their ideas and their actions have consequences on everybody in the household, and that's pertinent to teach a son who's going to be a father. I mean, you got to teach him that. So that was cool to me, especially being raised Baptistic. Uh, it's kind of eye opening to see, like, to teach your son the covenantal nature of family.
Yeah. Well, and I appreciate it even on both sides. He approaches it. Okay, you have these people who come from a more covenant Presbyterian type background. Here's the pitfalls that they can fall into, and here's what kids being raised in a Baptistic home have tendencies to pitfall into. And he addresses both and saying, we're not saying that there's only one school of thought that can raise actual men. That's not what we're saying. But here's the dangers that you're going to encounter one way or the other, and you have to both sides have to be aware of both of those things.
Right. He says, Baptists, you just sow doubt into your children. If you're telling them they're not saved, you're not raising them. You're raising them into the Lord, but you're sowing doubt. Not good. So I can't quite remember. He doesn't say they're both equally relevant. Obviously, covenantal way is the way to go. If you're not baptizing your children, you're wrong. Um, but there also are like pitfalls, like with presumption and stuff like that.
Yeah. Well, and then his relation, as he talks about how to relate to your family, how to relate to the world, how to respect your mother.
Yeah, I love that chapter.
And one of the things that I really enjoyed about it is, like, it felt like every other word was a scripture reference to something in Proverbs. Like, it's so saturated in, son, honor your father. Son, don't neglect the instruction of your mother. Listen to this. And so it's funny. This book, I haven't read it before, but my parents read it when I was a kid. And so this was largely part of the philosophy that was invested into my upbringing and not knowing it. So, like, he has a chapter called "The Contempt for the Cool." My mom uses that phrase all the time. So I don't know.
That was a great chapter.
I don't know if he got that from her or if she got it from him, one way or the other. But that's a phrase that's been in our household my entire life. It's not about being cool. It's not about following trends or dressing extra stylish. If you're chasing that, you're chasing a different world, a different pagan worldview, and you need to be
True.
acting like a Christian, which means acting like a man.
I
as
could
well.
talk about that chapter for like 30 minutes. That chapter is so great.
Well, we can do that. We got all day, right? The listener has all day as well.
I mean, I don't know. I'm not even going to start because it'll be a long tangent. But that chapter, that last chapter, that should be just go get the book,
Yeah.
because that last chapter is really good.
If you give it out of 10, we like to do it out of 10. Where do you rate it?
I would rate it an 8,
An 8.
just purely out of anger that it wasn't like twice as long. Because
So you're rating it 8 just to spite him?
yeah,
Okay.
should have been twice as long. I mean, in terms of content, is a 10. It's just, I was like, no, it's done already. Like, every chapter, I was like, you're done already. So I just wish it was longer. Maybe I should up it to a 9. I have no complaints about the content or anything.
Same. I'll give it a 10. I won't hold back. Even though Moscow Man bad, I won't hold back. I thought it was a really good book, and obviously having a predisposition coming into it, knowing that this is how I was raised, and seeing that even though I didn't know these principles that were part of this were being used. I don't say used on me, but this was a principle that was practiced in our home. It was good to see and good to know that I have faithful parents who raised faithful kids, and so it was grateful, but it also gave me pause to step back and go, okay, these failings that he's talking about, boys not growing up, is that me? And I had to ask those questions over and over and over and over again. And I found it very, very convicting and very good as a reference to go, okay, here's where I still have room to grow. Here's where I can change and develop to be a better man, and then to eventually raise better men.
Yeah, even if you don't have kids or anything, if you're just a young man, it's a great book to read.
Yeah. So, we recommend it for boys who are growing up, right? Who are future men, current men who have future men.
Yeah.
How to raise their sons, and moms who are
Yes.
going to raise
Moms.
future men.
Yes.
He addresses mothers
A lot.
surprisingly a lot, because you think of even just raising children, there's going to be in most homes, the mother is going to have the largest amount of contact time with the boy as he grows up.
Right.
Dad's out working, especially in this culture. He's going to be out working, and the mom's going to have a lot of exposure, and she needs to be able to handle this creature that is in her house. So, quickly before we wrap up, what did you think? As this was probably one of my favorite things. He has an appendix at the end of the book on marijuana use.
Oh yeah, that was good.
I thought like that was maybe for me that would be worth the price of the book.
Just that essay.
Just that
Yeah.
appendix. Why he says, okay, all of these things is this given to us as a good gift from God? Sure, but what's its use? Is it the same as alcohol? And so he compares it and contrasts it as, okay, when Scripture talks about using wine for positive purposes, is marijuana an equivalent? Can you exchange those two things? And I thought he just did a masterful job of explaining that. So I thought that was worth the price of admission. Just
Yeah, it was.
on that.
Yeah, because I didn't know that article or essay existed. Like I wish it was like on Desiring God or something like that, where more people could read it.
Yeah. But unfortunately, you're going to have to go get the book to find out. You should get the book. There's a lot of really, really good stuff in it anyways. The book, again, is Future Men, Raising Boys to Fight Giants by Douglas Wilson. You can find it wherever books are sold. Thanks again for listening. We hope to join us next time on Born to Read and Born to Reign.
Yes, sir.